What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And with Shadowlands releasing imminently around the corner, I wanted to touch on something that is pretty much a way of people that haven't played the game, either World of Warcraft retail from Battle for Azeroth in a long time, or have just mostly been playing any of the other expansions, including Classic, can hop in and just get right into the game and get used to actually playing their characters. So this video is the first in a potential series of classes made easy. Now this first one is for Rogue, because Rogue is the class I plan to main or at least level first in World of Warcraft Shadowlands. That being said, of course, my name is Sarthe, and if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments if there's any other classes or specializations you want me to focus on. And if you want to hang out with me and watch me play Shadowlands on the actual release, I'll be doing that over at twitch.tv/Sarthe. Throughout the years, the Rogue playstyle has barely changed from the sense of it being a builder spender class using energy, where you're always building combo points and spending it on finishers. So that playstyle hasn't changed throughout every iteration of Rogue, but there are very unique different specs. Okay, so there are three major playstyles within World of Warcraft. Kind of two, but one is skewed a little bit. PvP and PvE. And PvE can be broken up between Mythic Raids and Mythic Plus. These are very different. Now, these are going to adjust your actual playstyle if you're either doing PvP or PvE in either of the different ways, especially in Shadowlands, because there's a few mechanics that are a little bit confusing at first. These mainly are soulbinds, covenants, and legendaries. So I'm going to briefly break these down for you and give you an idea of what to focus on right away. So the Rogue Covenants have been very much nerfed because they were kind of OP in the alpha and the beta. The Covenants you want to look into as a Rogue currently are most likely looking like the Kyrian Covenant, even though it got slightly nerfed today, as well as the Night Fae Covenant. Next is going to be the legendaries. And for the legendaries, there is one baseline one called Master of Assassin that is really good for you to go through, and you can use it in all three specs. If you're Assassination, the Zoldyck legendary is very useful. For Outlaw, the Celerity legendary is being the best right now because others were nerfed. And for Subtlety, there are two legendaries, the Icarus Soul Fragment for single target, and then actually for anything two targets and above, there is Finality. And those are the real big Shadowlands things that you need to know, so just lock those down right now. Let's get into actually playing the game again. So what I want to do with this video is to really bridge the gap between Classic and Shadowlands, or even make it easier for people that have potentially never played a class or haven't played a class for quite some time to jump right in and be basically a master. Understand your rotation, your mechanics, and pretty much just go right into the flow and play the class and play it well. Now the specialization, the talent specialization that is closest to what we remember from World of Warcraft Classic, or even potentially in TBC, is going to be the Outlaw Spec. This is the most similar to combat, so it'll make it very easy for you to hop right in. The weird thing about the Outlaw Spec is there is a little bit of RNG with this ability called Roll the Bones, which we'll get into in a minute, but almost everything else is very similar, and it is very reminiscent of a classic Rogue, so this is the specialization we are going to focus on today. Outlaw utilizes some of the iconic abilities like Blade Flurry and a version of Eviscerate. It's not actually Eviscerate, but it's just called Dispatch. It's pretty much the exact same thing as Eviscerate. You also still have Slice and Dice to maintain. You also have Adrenaline Rush and very common abilities like Sprint and Evasion, which was actually taken away, but it's back now. We also do have Poisons, which is just a thing to manage, but you're used to that, so don't even worry about this. Roll the Bones is the most RNG aspect of this game, and it is an ability that has a 45-second cooldown where you want to use it off of cooldown, and it has the chance to give you one of any 5 random buffs, as well as a low chance of giving you 2 of those buffs, and an even lower chance of giving you all 5 of the buffs, which whenever this happens, you're pretty much God mode. It's really RNG dependent, but in the last iteration of this game in BFA, you actually had to re-roll like all the time until you got a good buff. Now it has a cooldown, so you don't have to focus on doing that all the time. So it is good, or it is useful now for you to just keep it up. It's very easy, especially if you have weak auras. Make sure you keep up Roll the Bones and Slice and Dice. That's the baseline principle that I'm going to let you know right now. That's pretty much going to be pretty standard. Now, as for rogue talents, there is a little bit of choice you can choose in the middle of the talent tree, but the most important ones, or the ones you most likely are going to go after, are going to be the quick draw talent in the first spec, the acrobatic strikes, which gives you more range to your melee abilities, vigor, and then where you can choose is iron stomach, cheat death, or elusiveness. I like to go with cheat death. If something's going to kill you, you just don't die. Dirty Tricks is very useful, as well as Blinding Powder. Alacrity is going to be something you're basically always going to pick, and then as well as Blade Rush in this iteration of Outlaw Rogue. You could go with Killing Spree, but the issue with getting Killing Spree is that it caps out on 4 targets, and Dancing Steel as well. It keeps up Blade Flurry, but you're kind of almost going to have 100% uptime on Blade Flurry now. So Blade Rush is really nice, especially for Mythic Plus. It's good for single target as well, but not as great as something like Killing Spree, but it doesn't cap out on those 4 targets. It can hit every target, which is a issue that rogues see right now, where in BFA we were using Blade Flurry and it would hit every single target around us and do incredible damage. Now we're capped out at 4 additional targets, so 5 targets total from our Blade Flurry damage. Next, I'm going to quickly talk about our stat priority, so you can break down which stats or which pieces of gear are better for you, but this is basically going to be agility is your best. For every class, your primary stat is your best, and then we actually want versatility and then critical strike, followed by mastery and last haste. So you're looking more for items with versatility and critical strike on them than anything else. That will increase your DPS by the most right now. Now, the Outlaw Spec is kind of unique in the sense that it's similar to combat, but you're also kind of a pirate. It's a weird mix where you actually use a gun and one of your finishers is using a gun. And so one of your combo point builders and one of your finishers is also shooting a gun. It's a little bit unique in that sense, but it basically just adds 1 extra ability to either your finisher and 1 extra ability to your combo point builders. It's not too confusing, and I will break these down for you in 1 second. Okay, so now we're gonna look at the rotation for Outlaw. Now, the opener you always want to do is, if you can, open from stealth and open with an ambush. Uniquely, we have ambush back, but it doesn't require you to be daggers, and this is the spec, of course, like combat, so you're using swords, maces, or even axes. What the unique thing about this is you can ambush from any angle, so I can be right in front of the target and use ambush. Now, technically, there's one other thing you can do before you use ambush, and that is to roll the bones. Hope that you get a good buff, so you can open the fight always with roll the bones into ambush. Throughout a fight, if you see an opportunity to vanish ambush again, that is a slight DPS increase. The next thing you want to focus on, like I mentioned earlier, is maintaining uptime of Slice and Dice. And unfortunately, my current weak auras, I just downloaded a weak aura pack, aren't the same as something that I used before. So I will be designing weak auras to make sure that I can track these things better. So if you want to stay tuned or follow the Discord channel, I will update all of the weak auras with basically weak auras like I have in World of Warcraft Classic, and I'll show them here on the screen right now so you can track all of your abilities even better. I will be designing weak auras for every spec for rogues, but today, to jump right in, we are of course talking about Outlaw. Now, of course, our main combo builders are Sinister Strike, and like I mentioned earlier, you now have one with a gun called Pistol Shot. Now, you only want to use Pistol Shot when you get a proc of Opportunity, which reduces the cost of 50% energy to your next Pistol Shot and increases the damage it does by 150%. So every time you see an opportunity proc, and this will be just something that shows up on your screen, and if you want a weak aura for that as well, I can design one, but Blizzard already standard UI shows it on your screen, you will click Pistol Shot. As for your finishers are Dispatch, like I mentioned earlier, which is basically a version of Eviscerate. It's the exact same thing as Eviscerate, it just does static damage, more damage for more combo points. And then you also have Between the Eyes. Now, Between the Eyes used to be an ability you mostly used when there was a certain proc, but Between the Eyes now is something you're going to use basically off of cooldown because it increases your critical strike chance on that target by 20%. So make sure that you are using Between the Eyes off of CD. This is basically your opener. The thing that we used to have from Between the Eyes was it used to actually be our stun. We didn't have Kidney Shot for Battle for Azeroth, but Kidney Shot is back, which is our normal stun finisher. Between the Eyes is the finisher that will give you this debuff or this buff. On a single target though, it doesn't give you a buff, it is a debuff on the target. So be aware of that when you're doing AoE. Furthermore, past that, pretty much right now you're using your Azerite trait, but other than that, you want to use Blade Rush off of CD or whatever your ability is that you chose in the final tree, which would then either be Blade Rush or Killing Spree. Dancing Steel wouldn't be an ability that you have to use at all. Killing Spree you would use if you get really low on energy because it is 2 seconds of basically you're not really controlling your character. So Killing Spree is most useful when you're really low on energy. It is instant, but usually we will be using Blade Rush off of CD, and again, it is not capped on how many targets it hits. So if you have Blade Flurry up, this is huge to use. So those are like the core abilities you need to focus on. Those are pretty much everything you need to know right as you jump in. There's a lot of other things you do want to get used to, but first you want to make sure that those things, those abilities in specific, you have at very friendly keybinds that you're used to using. You do have abilities like Shiv that will automatically put your passive poison up, so that's gonna be Crippling Poison, which is the only one we have right now. It's instantly gonna slow the target. That's a useful ability. You also have an ability called Grappling Hook, which is just for movement, extremely useful. But other than that, it's mostly the same abilities that we have in classic or older versions of the game. We do have Cloak of Shadows, which is incredible to use and incredible to save you in many situations. And there is actually an ability called Crimson Vial, which heals you for 20% of your maximum HP over 4 seconds. So rogues can heal themselves now, but most of all, you're just focusing on those abilities. Blade Flurry, I guess I forgot to mention, does not increase your actual single target weapon speed like it does in Classic or even in TBC. Blade Flurry just makes it so that you hit 4 extra targets. So you're hitting 5 targets. It does not increase your weapon speed. So you do not use it on a single target fight because it is a waste of energy. So going over the rotation one last time, you'll open from stealth with a roll the bones into an ambush, into a slice and dice from your builder, and then your first actual ability or combo point spender is going to be Between the Eyes, and then your next ones are just going to be your actual basically Eviscerate, which again is just called Dispatch. You do have Adrenaline Rush, which is massive. This is your big damage dealing ability. It is on a 3-minute cooldown now instead of 5. And so you do want to use Adrenaline Rush as often as you possibly can, especially if you're like a min-maxer. Adrenaline Rush is huge. It is great for pushing DPS and for a burst or burn phase as well. So you do want to use this almost off of CD if you can. And that's pretty much the big takeaway from the spec. There's nothing really you have to focus on outside of that. You can go in and jump into the game right now and play a combat rogue or an outlaw rogue. Look at that, they're basically synonymous. The only difference, or the main difference, is you have 2 combo point builders with Pistol Shot instead of just Sinister Strike, and you're only using Pistol Shot when you get that proc. And then you have 2 finishers with Between the Eyes, which you are using first to make sure that you get this debuff up on the target. You do still have to keep up Slice and Dice, but that's something we're mostly used to. And the other thing to keep up is basically just Roll the Bones. So there's pretty much twice the abilities for everything you do, but it doesn't complicate your rotation that much. So this is going to make it very, very easy for you guys to jump right into Shadowlands and get right into playing a rogue and playing it well. I will do some deep dives on the class and the classes as well if people want, but let me know in the comments if you want me to go over the other specializations for rogue, because especially assassination, which is performing extremely well in PvP and PvE, the only thing is it's a lot more different, so it would have to take a little more of a nuanced approach than just breaking it down. And this is the easiest way for you to jump in and play a rogue right away. Just basically you're a combat rogue, you're using swords, quote unquote, but you also can use maces and axes, whatever you need, just pretty much not daggers. It is really easy to jump right into this game again, and you shouldn't feel overwhelmed playing right now and getting in before Shadowlands or getting ready to play Shadowlands. This will make the game a ton of fun, and I totally urge people to play. I will be playing on release aggressively, so come hang out with me at twitch.tv/Sarthe. And if you want to get the week auras that I will be designing this weekend, also just follow the Discord link in the description. I'll see you guys all on the next one, and I'll see you guys all out there in Shadowlands. Peace.